Hello, my name is Scott Bradley and this is SNN Sports Football Voices podcast, and as always you can catch us on YouTube and Spotify, and I'm over the moon to be joined by former Rangers player David MacKinnon. Dave, how are we?
Great, Scott, absolutely brilliant, and delighted that I've got an ex-player sitting beside me.
Oh, definitely. And
you play for?
No, I wasn't very good, mate. No, I'm just a journal. I'm good at talking about football, that's it, no playing it.
Hey, the good thing, I'm his assistant on here.
I know, exactly, I'm the gaffer.
He's a gaffer, he can sort of sponsor gear. I get nothing.
And I'm also joined by my co-host, the one and only John Spencer. John, how are we?
I'm good, Scott. Good to be back, mate.
Definitely, and we've got a lot to talk about, guys. A game happened yesterday, the Old Firm Derby, and it was very eventful, to say the least. Yet again, Dave, Rangers have failed to beat Celtic at Ibrox. What did you make of it? Celtic won 4-2 in penalties. It was, I would say, afterwards it was chaotic. But what did you make of the game in itself?
I thought in certain areas they were exceptional. You know, I think we created a lot of chances, but you know, I was actually thinking about it as if McCoy's playing yesterday. I think he scored about 4 or 5 probably, wouldn't he? Because I think you know, the guy up front, he's good. Last week scored 2 incredible goals, but it's consistency, and you need that almost like strikers. You need that bit when the ball comes, to take a breath and compose themselves, and you know, play it. And that's what makes good strikers. And I don't know if he's got that. Maybe he's young, isn't he? You know, so maybe he's still learning the game, I think. But I thought Rangers had enough chances to win.
No, definitely. But John, though, like in terms of the standard, I don't think it was a good advert for Scottish football. I can't remember the last time Rangers and Celtic have been this bad, because on show it was not an entertaining game to watch at all.
No, it wasn't. I think that most of the game was played in between the two 18-yard box, the way I seen it. I think there was, if you look at the chance that Chermiti had, probably the best chance he had was the one from Tavernier's cross, and he kind of catches it on the volley and volleys it past the post. But that was late in the game. I think Rangers, to be honest with you, for me personally, looked more dangerous from set pieces. I think that's why, you know, Celtic went with the 3 big boys at back, put Scales at left back to have them 3 big centre backs on the pitch to deal with set pieces. But for me, I think if you're looking at the game, you're going, passion for both teams was outstanding, work rate was outstanding, the intensity of the game was outstanding, but actual quality of, you know, possession, passing, etc., clear-cut chances, I don't think was enough in the game. I don't think, as you're right, I don't think it was a great advertisement technically for Scottish football, but certainly passionately with the 2 sets of players on the pitch, they put in a fair shift, that's for sure.
One of the things, if I could just say as well, is what you know, Celtic played exceptional in defence. You know, they've had some horror shows. They've won last time I was in the league, but they looked composed at the back. They made a lot of blocks, and I thought defensively they actually played very, very well.
I think I have to agree with you, David. I think we spoke about this a couple of times, that about not writing. When you win championships and you win trebles and doubles and stuff, it builds a certain mentality within the group. And I think if you look at Celtic's last 5 games, at least 4 games were on the road, were away from home. They've put in a lot of travel. I think they came out with a hell of a lot of character for that game yesterday. As Davey says, they defended deep, they were resilient, they were strong. If Rangers were ever going to beat them, that was the day to do them yesterday. And if you look at it, as I said, I think if you look at that, it was like Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Wednesday, Sunday, and that run of games, and they don't have a big squad. And I tell you right now, they came out with a lot of credit. They defended resiliently, and eventually obviously won the game in penalty kicks.
Oh, definitely. And I do agree with you, because obviously Celtic are down to the bare bones. They were missing Tierney and McGregor. That was like a free hit for Rangers, and to put it bluntly, they bottled it, in my opinion, they did. And yesterday I was at the presser with Danny Rowe, and basically the whole press conference was dominated about mentality, and he was like, yeah, I don't think this is a topic I want to speak about today. But do you think, Dave, this Rangers team are capable of going on and winning this league title? Because the mentality thing has been a question a lot of people have been asking for a number of years now.
Well, I think it's, as John says there, Celtic have been through that. They've got a lot of winners on their side. Rangers, players that still have to prove themselves to that level. And I think it's difficult because you need a certain type of composure when you come into the final quarter of the season. If you've got an objective to win the league, then you have to have a belief. I don't think there's a belief within the squad at Rangers that they believe that they can actually do it. And I think, you know, if you look across at Hearts, there's a belief in that side that think they're going to win it, which is great, because that's half the battle. You convince your fellow players, you have an attitude within the dressing room, you know, we're not going to be beaten here. And I've seen that at Hearts. Don't know if it's there at Rangers. Celtic, they've obviously had the problems with Nancy coming in, and that's lost them a lot of points. But if they've been over the hurdles before, it's coming into the critical time of the season, you know, they're still in with a shout, I think.
I think if you look at the game against Hearts at home for Rangers, they have the quality to win the league. I don't know if they have that quality consistently over the next, 4 games before the split, then into the split. I'm not sure they can string, because I think over the last 10 games, I think they've won 4 out the last 10. That doesn't fill you with confidence saying that we're on a run to go and win the league. I think if you look at Celtic are on the ropes physically, because I think they've played an extremely amount of games, right? And I don't think they've got the squad depth to cope with that. Whereas I think if I look at Hearts are pragmatic, and I think they're strong, and I think Derry's got them playing a certain way. I think Hearts can go and play back to front and batter you physically. I don't know if Rangers and Celtic can play any other way than popping it around and playing, whereas I think Derry's got them playing a certain way that they can grind out results. They're getting Shanklin back, which I know Devlin's come back, but I think Shanks has been the biggest loss for them, because he's a Chris Boyd type, where one chance, one goal type. Their 2 wingers that they've got look dangerous every time they're on the ball, Casaridis and Braga. If you look at Celtic and Rangers as wide players, I'm not sure that they've got the quality. I think if you look at the assist leader at Celtic, is Tierney. I think the top goal scorer at the moment is Negren, 15. Maeda's got 4-5. Chermiti, 9. So the stats are not backing up for them to go and put a run together to win the league. And I tell you, I know I change my mind every week. I'm telling you right now, I think looking at it, I think Hearts, as you said, I think it's Hearts' title to lose at the moment.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. On you go, Dave.
I was just going to say that for me, I know Shanklin, you know, he's been a big loss, but Devlin for me, you know, that endeavour in midfield, you know, if a guy like Devlin's playing alongside you in a team, you know, you can hang your hat and him, give him 100%.
I agree with you there, David. I will say it.
I'm coming back.
I think the boy Leonard has come in for Birmingham, who was a former Hearts Academy player. I think he's coped with the loss of Devlin, because I think he's actually maybe a wee bit cleaner in possession of the ball. But the difference is, if you look at the 7s and 11s, and I look at Chermiti and the big Celtic strikers at Kravankar, right? I'm looking at them and going, are the 2 wingers providing enough quality consistently in creating chances for the 9? So it's very easy to turn and say, well, Chermiti doesn't look goal dangerous. He's not doing this, not doing that. But if you're playing as a lone striker, you need the 2 wingers. And I know you look at Mikey Moore yesterday and you're thinking, I thought he looked super sharp at times. But what is his end product? And if Rangers are looking and saying, we need Mikey Moore to score goals, you're talking about an 18-year-old kid who's came on loan for Tottenham. If you're hanging your hat on him turning the season for you to win a championship, then I think you're going to fall short. And that's nothing against it. I think he's got a great promising future. But to turn around and go, this 18-year-old kid needs to carry us to the title, I'm not sure Rangers are going to get there if that's the case.
No, definitely. And Dave, I want to speak about the scenes after the game. There was ugly scenes, what happened with Rangers and Celtic fans running on the pitch, and the old allocation was back. 7,500 Celtic fans were in attendance in the Broomland stand, but I think it's safe to say I don't think that will happen again. But what do you make of the scenes after it?
Well, the police have come out today and said that it's not Scottish football back 10 years, and they will not support an allocation in any future games for the visiting support. So that's disappeared. I mean, because the police have a huge say in it, because they're around the police. But you know something? I'm very, very concerned about a player, some of the coaching staff, the management, the stewarding, police, someone getting killed. Because ultimately,
could easily happen,
you know, the anger, as you know what it's like, you're up it's very emotive, the Old Firm games. You know, they don't need a team talk. You want to batter the door down and get out there and play because of the whole atmosphere. And the fans do that as well. So it wouldn't take somebody coming on and say, well, I'm taking a knife to the game. I played in the game, and I'll not mention the teams, and a fan ran on the knife onto the pitch. Right? Well, and it was frightening, to be perfectly honest, because you're looking at it, and one of the other players said, look at this, a knife he's got, right? So the police came on and apprehended him. But see, when everybody came on yesterday, there was a wee groups of players involved in it, fans, either the management, football management, and anything could have happened in that. If somebody's got a knife, they're going to pull it. And I don't think the kind of the moralistic thing that fans had in our day, where they wouldn't dream of running on the park. But people run on the park now, by habit.
Yeah.
And if you've got one that's going to make it a name for yourself, I really, really worry that someone's going to get seriously injured with this. And that's the next stage. So how do you sort it? Do you go back to fences? Remember the fences?
Yeah.
That's an option.
Yeah.
In Europe, you see in the stands, they don't allocate with, I think, first couple of rows, first 2 or 3 rows. It's actually common sense, and say, how can you stop this?
Yeah. Can I jump in there, David? I think Police Scotland have got a lot to answer for, and I'll tell you why. I think as soon as the final whistle goes, and they know that, for the extra time, whistle goes, and it's done, I think barriers should have been put up with police force, either side, either goal. First, when they're taking penalties down the Rangers side, protection for the Celtic players. Other side, for what we've seen. And Police Scotland, in my opinion, should have grabbed the 2 managers together, and they must have a front office general manager type that's down there on the pitch. And you turn around, even if it's before the game, you must, even if it's before the game, they go across every scenario. If this goes in 90 minutes, we're good, get your player. If this goes extra time, penalties, here's what we need. We're lining up behind each goals, police officers, etc. Your players have your penalty kick takers, and then have the rest of the players that's knowing the penalties beside the tunnel, right? As soon as we get into penalties, you get your players off the park immediately, right? They never did. They were too late in getting the security out there, the police force out there, and the security staff out there, and there wasn't enough for them. So I think that them turning and saying this will never happen again, I think they're copping out, because I don't think it should never have got to that where supporters were allowed to run. Celtic fans jumped on because the Celtic fans, when they scored the penalties and it was won, they went to celebrate. The Celtic players should have been removed from the pitch immediately, as should the Rangers players, but it never happened, and they allowed the players to loiter on the pitch. And then there's a couple of guys having a go at each other in the tunnel, and that just fires everybody. As Davey says, these games are fired up enough, and I think what you're seeing is a lot of pent up aggression and frustration, because what's happened is Hearts have come on the scene. They threw a grenade into the camp, because what usually happens in Scottish football, when Celtic drop, Rangers pop up. When Rangers drop, Celtic pop, so they're sharing the trophies together. What they've seen now is there's a possibility that Rangers might not win the league, Celtic not win the league. There's a lot of toxicity at Celtic. There's now pressure coming into the Rangers camp. So now the fans are going, we're not going to win a trophy. And then that pent-up aggression and anger comes as they're walking in. And as you well know, the world's a political minefield, which is a different topic for a different podcast. But there's a lot of animosity and aggression going on in the world at the moment. And when you come into these games, it's like a battlefield.
I think the thing is, like, as an ex-player, I'm watching the game on the TV, and I'm saying to myself, this is tinderbox waiting to happen, because you know what it's like. Somebody's got to win the penalties.
Yeah.
The other team, feel hard done by if they don't. And that's when this pent up aggression comes on. The other thing is, I'll just mention as well, I was chief executive quite a few clubs and played against Rangers and Celtic on many occasions. And one of the things in the pre-match sort of planning was that Rangers and Celtic, I don't know if it's changed now, they insisted their stewards came. So if I was at Kilmarnock as the chief executive, the Celtic fans would be policed by the stewards
from their club. It's quite interesting.
With Rangers, because what the rationale was being that, well, we know potential who's troublemakers, that was Rangers and Celtic, and we know that we keep an eye on them, and we get a sense of how we're going to react. I don't know if that, as I say, if that's been changed, but the stewards, if that was the case, would have known what was going to happen both ends. And it's, as I say, it's not a good look. It's just more the fact that it becomes the norm now. People run on the park,
Yeah.
And it was like if someone ran on the park, I think a couple of times I went to see Aberdeen against Celtic once. I was injured, and John Gregg asked me to go and scout, and somebody came on for the jungle and grabbed Gordon Strachan. So that was unique, and it was front page in the papers because it never happened. But now it's become the normal way. But there's certain things that have crept into the game that should have been stamped down straight away. I'm talking about if somebody runs on the park, it's illegal. So they should have dealt with that. Police Scotland, I think, should have dealt with that in the highest manner they could. So, it only takes one or two to start going on the park.
Yeah, it takes one, it just takes one. It's a domino effect, doesn't it?
So it wasn't great.
No, definitely. And I've seen Chris Boyd said something today where he thinks after what happened yesterday that Old Firm fans could be banned from the games completely. Dave, do you think something like that could actually happen?
I don't think. I think what will happen is I think that away fans will go back to the
old allocation,
or something. Away fans, be something like that. They're going to go back to that for this season anyway. And then what will happen is there'll be a big boom movement to us. It's the close season, the SFA and the SPFL, and they'll come up with some kind of sanction on it. But whilst there was, it looked a relatively big number coming on the park, the majority of fans, they police themselves, don't they?
Yeah. Yep.
They're well behaved, and they must have been up in the stands, both sets, saying,
shaking their heads.
Yeah, I remember playing in a game, Rangers against Celtic, and it was 4-4, and it was the only time ever that Celtic fans were applauding the Rangers players, and the Rangers fans were applauding Celtic because it was such a
good game.
It played in the same manner, aggressive, but it's the only time that's ever happened, and I don't think that happened again.
No, I don't think. I would hate to see that score, because I must admit, I've seen a few Rangers Celtic games at Ibrox, and I think the atmosphere yesterday, up until the few morons that jumped the pitch, jumped the wall and come onto the pitch, the atmosphere was electrifying. I spent a lot of time in the States, and people always say, Scotland, the soccer, and what's the Rangers Celtic games like, and you're like, the atmosphere is just second to none in my opinion. And it was back yesterday, and as I say, it's just a shame that happened at the end. Then we might not see it again for a number of years, but who knows? Fingers crossed.
Just tell you something, and it's changed days obviously with money and things like that, but that 4-each game, Ted McMinn was playing, right, and we came into the dressing room, and it was a great game, and it raised our spirits. And then Ted suddenly ran away with the dressing room. I thought, where's he away? So he comes back about 15 minutes later with a bag. Like, who have you been to? Oh, he says, I was getting pelted with pound coins. He says, I've got 65 quid. I'm doing my drink for the year.
Typical Ted.
That's right.
But I just want to touch on Danny Rowe, guys. I think he's done a great job so far, John. But over the last couple of weeks or so, he's received a lot of criticism, and I think it is justified. But what have you made of what he's done so far? And see if Rangers don't win anything this season, do you think he deserves a summer to rebuild the team?
I would say, we spoke about it off air, and I think he came in, and I think he's had a positive impact from taking over from Russell Martin. I think the club was at a low ebb. It got the manager bounce, right? So they've went, but they've came into the big games and failed to to really make an impact in the big games. People have criticised them the last couple of games where they've said, against Celtic at 2-0 up, he made a substitution that maybe shouldn't have made. So, I think he's got to get time. I think you've got to give him time, you've got to give him a window. I think the window in the summer is key. I know we spoke about the players that they brought in there, Nadiri, Skov Olsen, guys like that. They've got to be given time to settle. But, I spoke to you about stats, etc. You're saying, it's really hard when you sign foreign players, and especially when you sign them in the winter break, right? You've got to get them in. If you look at Hearts, for instance, I keep talking about the 7 and 11, right? Braga and Kizaridis, they get a pre-season with Hearts. They come into a feel-good factor. What's happened at Celtic is Celtic brought loan players in, the same as Rangers have, but they've come into a ship that's unsteady. There's a lot of toxicity, a lot of negativity about the club, right? So maybe the players, it's always great bringing players in and new additions to your group when things are going well, because then they come in, there's a settled feeling around the club, but they've come into an unsettled position in the club, and I don't think they've got the best out of these players. So it's going to be a big summer for them, for both clubs, because Celtic are going to be looking for a new full-time manager. It's quite possible with the reports today that Rangers might be looking for a new full-time manager, who knows, but I don't think you can keep chopping and chopping and chopping. I think what the two clubs need to do is they really, really need to look at their scouting departments, because certainly recruitment over the last few years has been a wee bit, not been great. It's been a bit questionable, to say the least. As we say, we spoke about the guys that they've brought in. They haven't hit the ground running. So the summer's going to be big for both clubs.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think if you're looking at Rangers, the recruitment was very, very poor for a couple of years. And we cannot keep saying it's the manager, and the manager has to work with what he's got at the moment, but he has to get this window right this summer. And I think he should get a chance to do that. There's also, I think the wage bill is significant, and the new owners, if I'm American owners, I'm looking at them saying, wait a minute, we're paying this at Leeds, per players playing at Rangers, and it is significant what they're paying players. They'll want to clear out, and it's almost the fact is you'll never recoup what you paid for players, so they're going to have to take a hit in that, but they need the owners to say, right, okay, we understand it, and we need a churn of players, because there's a lot of players there, I can't even remember the names of some players, but there's players at Ibrox who come in a fanfare, and they're not even in the bench.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened to them.
Well, tell me, David, let me ask you a question. What do you think Rangers need?
I think they need to look at, I think the previous regime, when they looked at the recruitment, the philosophy was bring young players in, get them playing games, and then sell them on for a profit. Right, well, that's good, but you have to be good.
Yeah.
And they have to understand.
And you have to win.
Aye, and you have to understand the mentality of playing for Rangers. It's like, you have to win every week.
Yeah.
You have to compete, you have to give 100%.
Well, that's a given. That's a given for any club. Any footballer needs to work hard.
But the fans recognise that. Rangers fans recognise that somebody's not playing for the jerseys, and I think there was a lot of not playing for the jersey, and that's difficult because it takes a while to get them out. And also, I think the recruitment changed in the fact where it was based in stats. It was based in looking at bringing people in with computers that look at the stats and say, yeah, we should be signing him. Well, why? Because I explained to you about like Jeffy, always get, I was told by someone in the recruitment, he gets 15 crosses in a game. But what about defending?
It allows 30 crosses in a game. It doesn't matter.
And how they got the money back to Brazil, I thought, well done.
Yeah. See, I look at Celtic. You spoke about Rangers, I'll talk about Celtic. Callum McGregor's 32, 33. Over the last 4 or 5 years, he must have played 50 games a season. What have Celtic done with future planning via recruitment to have someone ready to come in and play against Auchinleck Talbot down at Rugby Park in the Scottish Cup where you can rest Callum McGregor? Right, Callum McGregor's out yesterday. They need to put Luke McCowan in there as the 6. And I'm looking at him going, sure, what is going on with Celtic Football Club? You look at Rangers, for instance, is Raskin a natural number 6? I personally don't think so. I think he's more advanced, a little bit of an 8, getting up and down the pitch, box to box. Rangers don't have a Barry Ferguson. Rangers need a number 6. It's not the case you turn around and say, well, that guy, put that right winger in at number 6, or you swap your 7 over to the other side and play him as a left winger. A number 6 is a specialised position. A guy that controls possession, controls the tempo, controls the flow of the game. Rangers don't have one. And so I'm looking at that and I'm going,
I don't think they've got many leaders on the park either, because you know what it's like. See, if you're going through, if you're maybe not on your game, you'll have somebody within your team to come up to you and say, "Get there's something in there. You better start playing." And that kind of pressure comes from within, from a dressing room, and I don't think there's anybody does that on the park. I don't think there's. I think I think if you look, for any football, you need solid defence, right? Particularly two middle guys. But I looked at the defence in one game, and they were all loanees on loan. And with respect to them, they're coming back to their own club, so
if it doesn't work out,
and they're not going to they'll give a certain amount, but they'll not give 100% every game and commitment and throw themselves in front of the ball to block it, or go and defend and make sure and flying in there to block things, because they might get injured and then they're going back to their own club and then they're back down the pecking order. So I think they need to look at the previous, as I understand it, the previous regime, when Russell Martin prior to him, was they looked at, right, they didn't quite understand or grasp how big a club Rangers are. And I think what they did was they thought, right, okay, we'll bring in more championship players, and they'll deliver what we need.
Yeah.
But they need to look higher than that. And they need to, in Scotland, they've stopped buying. I know they bought a couple of players to Scotland, but they've stopped looking,
that Scottish talent, yeah. You and I have spoken about that before, I think.
Honest. You could have got him for not a lot of money.
Was he available on a free at one time?
He was, it was last year, Yeah, it was almost like a come get me play to Rangers, and
I think
then
he's a
never
Rangers
done
supporter.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, yeah.
I've heard that, yeah. But we talk about like the Callum McGregors, the Barry Fergusons of this world, the captains, that it's their club, and it's different for them guys, because Scott Brown, McGregor, Ferguson, I can't remember the last other Rangers one other than Barry where you go, proper Rangers player, right, proper Rangers man, and you're looking, you're saying they need to try and bring something like that through, because I always say it, the academy boys coming through the club have a different feeling than when it comes from players coming overseas, because a lot of the foreign boys, no disrespect to them, they come in here and they're like, listen, I get 2 or 3 good years at Rangers or Celtic, I get a chance to go down south, to the big league or the Premier League or the Championship, bigger salaries, etc. A lot of the Celtic boys and the Rangers boys that come through the academy, it's their club. Not a lot of them want to leave. If I know you'll get the odd ones, but it's their club, and it means so much more to them when you grow up in this city, coming through and playing for your team.
No, definitely.
I can't speak for Celtic about how their academy works, but I can speak about Rangers, because being chief executive of clubs, and I've brought in players from Rangers, young players that have come through the academy and loan.
Yeah.
And I think there's always the mentality is not there of, what it's like when you come through the academy, it's a quantum leap into the first team, because the pressure becomes higher, and some kids need TLC, some need motivated, but above all, they need to be told what they can do to improve their game, to be consistent over a period. I was at chief executive in Wharton latterly, and we brought in Josh McPake, right? And he was one of the best players technically I've seen, right? Great player. Derek McKinnon's the signing for perhaps.
Yeah, he's at St Johnstone now, right?
Great player. But what I said to him, I said, what's happening with Rangers there? He says, I'm not going to get a game there. I said, how's that? He said, I've lost contact with the club. And I said, what do you mean? or I've been at 5 loans over 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So I'm not even getting into the club, so I don't know. I don't consider himself a Rangers player.
Yeah.
But he was one of the best players I've seen. And when he's going to Hearts, I think Derek will get his arm around him and say, you can go to the top with.
Well, same with Valakari's got the best out of him this year in the Championship. Sometimes it's good to get away from the big club, because you get to a certain age and a certain level that playing in that youth under 21 type of football only serves you so much, and then you've got to make the leap to jump to play against first team players, and it doesn't matter what level you're playing at, just get out and play against grown men that are experienced pros, and you see a different side, and it brings a different side out of you. So he's obviously flourishing this year in the Championship.
Barry McKenzie.
No, I don't know.
Centre back at Rangers, absolutely became a great player. We brought him up to Dundee. Alec Gray was the manager. No, this is big Gary McKenzie. He says, great player, we'll get him up. So he came up and he played, and it was an evening game. And first half, he was 6'4", but there was ducking in, and there was guys turning him and all that sort of thing. He was putting the ball into the stand. He was a mid-shocker.
Big man, on behalf of your slot here on the podcast.
Not at all.
Yeah. He then became an exceptional player. But Alec said to me, right, I have a chat with big Gary and asked him what's wrong with him. So I said, what's wrong, big man? I said, he seemed a bit nervous. He says, Davey, says, I've never played in front of a crowd before. Yeah. He says, and people are shouting things and I'm losing concentration.
Well,
and it was just a simple, concentrate in the game. You're a really good player, go in and dominate, go and win all the headers and all that. And he did that. And then he went, I think he played at Blackpool with Barry Ferguson and things like that. But he was a great thrower.
Yeah.
He played with St Mirren.
Well, we spoke about, they've got another young, super talented centre back that they had him on loan at Falkirk, saying I'm playing for a year, Luke Graham. And for me, Rangers and Celtic, they need to be signing young boys like this.
Yeah.
You know, young Scottish boys that know what it's like to play in this league, that are playing in the first team here. I think it would be a great signing for either or for him, to be honest with you.
Oh, definitely. And also, I just want to talk about your career, Dave, and I want to speak about your book as well, Slide Tackles and Boardroom Battles. Talk to me how that came about, and where can people pick it up?
Well, it came about because as managing director of a finance company, and we were at a business meeting in Edinburgh, and I came out and went up 12 stairs. Can't remember a thing. I wake up in hospital. I've ruptured an artery in my brain, and lucky survived. There was a vascular surgeon there. So I then this through a recovery period, and I had an open wound at the top of my head, and I'm waking up every morning and my head's stuck to the covers, right?
Yes.
And my wife was absolutely fantastic. She said to me, look, we need to get something that's going to take you out of this. I said, you're absolutely right. She says, why don't you write stuff down? So I'd started writing about recovery, and I came to the conclusion that I overcame a lot more in my career, my playing career, to get back to playing, so I could do this, stand on my head.
Yeah.
So that started, and I started writing the first chapter. I then was going through, I had a great doctor who told me that my mind would be resetting itself because it'd been battered off my skull and things like that, and it would reset itself. So there were some extraordinary things that would happen to me. She gave me a number to call her. And I woke up one morning, I was like, I'd been, dreaming about players and managers that I used to play with and work with. So I started doing a chapter about that, about all the managers that I had, the players sadly that have left us, the great David Cooper, for example, Ian Redford, and I then started to get into the book. So what was happening was that every morning I was getting out of my bed, getting in and creating this book, and so that's how it started. And Gone and Sailed has done relatively well. I've now got control of it from the publishers, and it's at davidmackinnon.com, and I'm actually selling it cheap. Do you want to give you one for nothing?
Well, listen, will you sign my shin pads? Because I put my shin pads on the David was coming on the show. So you're going to tackle me 2-footer under the table.
So, listen, the big thing, that's why I called it Slide Tackles and Boardroom Battles, because I used to love a slide tackle, and absolutely.
That's when they were allowed, David.
They're
not allowed on
the thing is, if you look at VAR now, they look horrendous.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an art. It's about timing. It's about taking the ball. And one of the things that they did, particularly at Rangers, when you had a slide tackle, the whole place would just explode. Right? I remember it was under Job Wallace. We were playing Hearts and we were being beat 2-0. And Big Joe, I was making sub, says, right, you're going on. Right? So Wallace Mercer was the
Hearts first.
chairman. Right? So I go on and I'm playing centre midfield and I go on tackle. With 6 tackles within the first 10 minutes. And you could see the Hearts players going, what's happening here? We ends up, we beat them. I think it was, you know, we beat them 3-2, I think, or 4-2. And Wallace Mercer did an interview after the game when he said, we were cruising that till they brought on a third.
They brought on Tommy Tackler.
And I thought, well, that's great. That was a great compliment. So big job being my game the next week. So
that's pretty
good. So it was all that kind of stuff, and it was very therapeutic, because what I also did was I made some mistakes in my career, leaving the club at the wrong time. I was at Arsenal at 20 years of age. I had a 2-year contract. We played Dundee in a pre-season friendly, and I get tapped to go
to Dundee.
And Dundee was a great club, you know, great people. But what I did was I was able to close the circle on a lot of things that were annoying me through my career, which was great, because I'll quickly tell you. So I go to Dundee. Tommy Gemmell's there as a player. And Tommy Gemmell, you're a young guy, you'll know him well, but he was the best penalty kick taker in the world at the time. Right? He was just magnificent, and he was a lovely big guy. And I said to him after training one day, you know, you're a sponge. See your penalties, Tommy, you're absolutely brilliant. I said, what's your secret? He said, grab a couple of balls, right, and go in goals. So you're blasting them all over the place. And he says to me, I said, well, what's the secret? He said, Davey says, I put the ball in the spot. He said, I run up to it, I get my head over it, and I hit it as hard as I can. He says, and if I don't know where it's going, the goalkeeper's got no chance. Right, 14 years later, I'm the captain of Kilmarnock, and we're playing final game of the season. We need to win to get promoted. Tommy Burns, such a lovely guy.
Legend. Love Tom.
Wonderful man. He's supposed to take the penalties. But as I pass him, it's like, I'm just talking to the big man, Dave. He said, we need this penalty gun. I said, well, go and blast it. No, you take it. You're the captain, right? That's all right. So as I place the ball on the spot, I hear Tommy Gemmell's hit it as hard as you can, and it's on YouTube. The misses the goalkeeper about that, but I blast it as hard as I can. Nearly took the net away, and that's us promoted. So it's a bit tenuous, but I decided that was why I left Arsenal. So,
all right, okay. Yeah, there's a wee connection there, yeah.
So I was able to sleep a bit better at night, you know, all these things. They all come, everything's for a reason.
Yeah, I'll believe that, yeah.
You know, in writing that, it was great, because closed a lot of ghosts around my head, so brilliant. So it's good, so it's different. You know, I've got a lot of people email me because of giving my email address when I send it out to them and personally sign it and everything. I was actually at a game in England on Saturday in Carlisle against Southend, and we're walking up to the ground. This guy comes up, gives me a big cuddle. What your book, Danny? Absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much. Can you tell me about this? Tell me about that. I thought, I brought some copies with me, you know.
That's brilliant. Great story.
So that was good.
And Dave, I just want to ask you about your time at Rangers. How did you look back on it? Because you had a brilliant career, so you did, but how did you look back at your time at Rangers?
It was great. It was, I could have gone to Everton. You know, Howard Kendall asked me to
Howard, yeah. Sign me at Everton, Howard.
Well, and I think that I was wanting to go back to play against, run at Highbury against Arsenal and do well. So, but my dad said to me, he was a great Rangers supporter, he said to me, I said to him, look, Rangers have to go up and see John Gregg. And he says, what are you going to do? I says, well, I like Everton because that's going to, you're back in England and things like that. And he says, Davey, he says, if you don't sign for Rangers, you and I are finished, son.
Wow.
And I went up, and I was a Rangers supporter.
Was that from Dundee then?
No, from Partick Thistle.
All right.
So I went up. John Gren was brilliant. I loved him as a guy and a manager. And very, very talented. Tommy McLean was there, who was a coach. And then Big Greggy said to me, he said, right, okay, he said, did you used to come to the games? I said, aye. He said, where did you stand? So showed him. And he went, no, once we sat down, they said, Davey, seen you run it with us Rangers Celtic game. He says, the hairs in the back of your head. Listen, in the European games, you'll love it here. Right, I said, right, here's the pen and I signed. And it was the best move I ever made.
Can I jump in there? You see, going back to what you talk about, connection.
Yep.
With the club, whether it be a Rangers fan, signing for
It's like a game changer, isn't it? Aye.
It's just that, like him sitting in that stadium, right? It was probably the days before, was there seats in the stadium at that time? So the old terracing?
Your legs were always wet.
Right? So like him sitting there, can you imagine him sitting there having stood in that position watching his team play and then going back so many years later and sitting with a manager who's an absolute legend of the club, right? Sitting going, you used to stand here and know you're from this position, somebody's going to watch you playing. Frank, it's amazing. It's an amazing story.
That thing about, I always remember going to a game, my dad would take me to a game, and the big thing was the green pitch and that blue jersey. And I just thought, I'm wearing a blue jersey.
Yeah.
And I played and I loved it. My first 6 months, we were undefeated. We were up the top of the league. We then, we played Borussia Dortmund, drew 0-0 out there. Totally different. Greg was, don't go beyond the halfway line, so let's get a draw in the Westfalen Stadium capacity. And we come back to Ibrox, beat them 2-0, and the Rangers fans were just unbelievable.
How many Rangers managers you played under? Jock Wallace and Greggy?
Three soonest.
Oh, okay.
For a short time.
Yeah. So you were there when I was there then, because that was my first year as a pro, was under Graham Souness in 86 then. 1986, after the World Cup.
Jock Wallace had asked me to play a couple of, well, it was a week after the Cartley's operation, because it was against Celtic and my contract was up at the end of the season. But then Souness came in and asked me to play final, and it was 6, 7, 8 games. He says, I want you to play centre midfield. He said, you have a young guy, Derek Ferguson, right? Ian Durant on the left, coached him through the game. And that's what I did, coached him through it. You go forward, because you had experience in it at that age. And it was brilliant. I loved it, but because of my knee injury, that was it.
There are another two players that you talk about coming through the ranks, Derek and Durante, that if they hadn't been good careers, but if they hadn't had injuries, you're talking world level players, man. In my opinion, if you put Derek Ferguson in today's game as a 6, the way he controls the game, magnificent, and Durante box to box, finishing midfield player, top notch.
So there's a lot of good players coming through, and one of the academy players. There are players again, but when they came in, they became part of the team straight away. Because one of the things at Rangers, as you know, the dressing room was great, and the guy that really looked after me was Davy Cooper.
Yeah, legend.
Because I, quickly tell a story, I went to Arsenal, and Arsenal taught me everything about the game. They were incredible the way they taught. And what happened was the older players, I was floating between midfield and right back. Alan Ball would look after me in midfield, tell me how to play, how to switch the play and all that. And at Pat Rice was at right back, he became the assistant manager.
Very good coach as well, yeah.
Lovely guy, Pat. And I remember one day he said to me, right, back to Highbury, they said, I'm going to tell you how to be a right back. I said, right. He said, who's your favourite player? I says, George Best. He says, well, I play against Bestie, obviously, and he plays in the Northern Ireland team. He says, how would you tackle him? I said, I would get touch tight and I would go in and try and win the ball. No. He says, Bestie runs up to you fast as anything, and what he does is he stops. He says, and then he puts you off balance and then gets away. I said, right. He said, so keep your eye on the ball at all times. Now, that's for a defender. That's a great lesson. Keep your eye on the ball. So, we played against George Best. We took the ball off him. They said to me, you've been talking to Rice? I said, aye. So I went to, when I went to Rangers, I'd been playing against David Cooper for Partick Thistle. And I did the thing, because Coop was the same.
Incredible.
He'd bring it up, and he could get you off balance and get away.
But Coop never had pace, right?
No, so that's
Technical ability was outstanding.
took you one way and then
Shifting.
So he said, he was very magnanimous about every game. He'd come up to me and put his arm and said, I need to keep my eye on you, son. You're brilliant. And I think John Gregg told me that Coop
Recommended you.
told him, sign me. Because I was the most difficult opponent he played against. So anyway, so I arrived first day at training, walking up that big corridor, about to get into the dressing room, and Coop came out the treatment room. And he said, how are you doing? I said, great. He said, right. He said, some big characters in this dressing room. He said, but just ignore them, right? And then he opens the door and goes in, and I'm half in as well, and he says, this is David MacKinnon, our new signing. He said, he's the best player I've played against. He says, and he's going to be great for us. He'll tackle everything. And that was it. And all the guys were coming up to me, and because you know what it's like walking in that dressing room first.
It's the first day at school, isn't it? It's never hanging out, is it?
Absolutely. And that was it. So I had injuries and illness at the wrong time. Various things happened to me, illness and injury wise, and I think that curtailed my career a wee bit there. But I still played 177 games. I think I scored, it's now 4 goals, because my header against Celtic's now been given to me instead of hitting off Cammy Fraser's back.
Did you tell Cammy?
No, not so that was great, and I really enjoyed my time at Rangers, because I won 35 Player of the Years in the first season, and Coop said to me that the only reason that I'd won it was because the new guy would go to every, I think, club and collect it, and I did. I remember I was going with 4 and 5
at the end of the season.
But some
Great experience, sir.
Well, absolutely. And, I think the other things, it was dead easy for me, because what happened was John Gregg and Tommy McLean, Jim Stewart used to go to roll the ball at the full-backs. Ali Dawson was on one side, left back, I was right back, and I used to get the ball rolled up out to me, right, and I'd look up and I've got David Cooper coming short, I've got Robert Pritz inside wanting the ball, I've got Jim Beck,
Bobby Russell.
What a midfield they had, right, and it all come.
And they'll have you believe in today's game that you never passed the ball or rolled the ball out at the back, right?
Aye. So you've got 5 or 6 passes you can play, or if they're blocked for some way, just chop it into the channel for Big Derek Johnson, John O'Dorn played off him. So it was wonderful. And what I used to do was I got the ball, maybe play to Coop, he'd play into Bobby Russell, and I'd be, look at these two. I'd get it back, maybe play it to somebody else, and I'd be going up the park. I'd get to, in the final third, Coop would play me in, and I'd cross the ball into the box, so Big Derek to head it in.
Good name. A lot of famous names there in that team.
It was easy to play, and they were all lovely guys. And that team should have kept together for a long time, but John Gregg was under pressure because we only won in the league. Yeah. And there was getting backstabbed, to be perfectly honest, by some people, I'm afraid. So
that part of the game hasn't changed.
No, it became a bit toxic, to be honest, and they put that team up, and Greggy sadly lost his job because Mr. Rangers.
Yeah, he still is. Yeah,
he's a great guy, absolutely. So it was brilliant.
I know, Dave, I can listen to you speak all day long, honestly, but just to wrap up, honestly, no, it's been an absolute pleasure.
He doesn't say that to me, so take that as a massive compliment.
But just to finish off, I'll ask you one last question, right? I ask everyone who comes on the podcast this question: who thinks better, Ronaldo or Messi?
Ronaldo.
Yes, that's 2 in a row, John. That's 2 in a row. Happy days.
I'm not buying the book now.
So that's Dougie and now Dave. Superb. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Dave. Thank you so much for coming on. And John, always a pleasure, mate.
Thanks.
But thank you very much for watching, guys. And until next time, take care and I'll see you soon. Cheers.